G.K. Chesterton has a quote that says, "An inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered." Isn't that great? An inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered. This is the perfect summary of the concept that we have talked about before on this fine podcast of the idea of, instead of seeking to make memories, because when we think about the idea of, I want to make memories, I want to live some good memories with my family this year. What you mean by that is you want everything to go perfectly. You want everything to be completely perfect, to go according to your plan. Everyone's happy. The birds are singing. The clouds part. It's 72 degrees constantly. Everything's fine. The kids are getting good grades. You love your job and your life. Like, that's when we say make memories. That is what we mean. Maybe you go to Disney World, take some pictures with a mouse, and they're good pictures, and you look hot. You see the pictures and you're like, wow, I look like, better than I look. Did I lose 10 pounds? That's amazing. That's what we mean when we say make memories. And that's nice. I mean, I do think that we should have some moments like that. I mean, I haven't had any recently, but I think that you guys should occasionally have some nice moments like that. But here's the thing about it. It is a little boring. It's a little boring when life constantly goes according to plan and everything is just fine, isn't it? And that is why it's been one of the most life-changing things I've ever done, very relevant to my life at this particular moment, to embrace the idea that when things go wrong, it's not that your, beautiful, precious family moment was ruined. It's that now, instead of making precious, fun memories, you're making lore. Like you get the bouncy castle for your kid's birthday, and you spend 2 weeks planning the perfect Pinterest birthday party for your kids, and you decorate cookies in the likeness of their favorite SpongeBob character or whatever, and you've got some, you make a cake that looks like Bluey and all of that, and then a massive storm comes and a tornado blows away the bouncy castle with all the crying kids watching. And that I just made that up off the top of my head, but that kind of visual comes to me very easily right now because I'm currently on the path that like that would 100% happen to me. Like it probably will happen to me before the end of the week. And so you can react one of two ways in that situation. You can let the kids see you melt down and be like, well, this is just terrible. Like this was supposed to be special. And then it makes it worse for the kids. You're their example of how to react to stuff. Or as you watch the tornado, destroy the bouncy castle. Like it's all, like in the movie Poltergeist, like it's just like when it took that tree, it's just all like going out into space now. You can be like, wow, that is lore. You can turn to your kids and be like, you are going to have the best story when you go back to school on Monday. Think about all these other kids at your school and their inferior birthday stories. They're going to be like, I got a new gaming console and I blew out my candles. And you can be like, hey, tornado blew away my bouncy castle. It's lore. It's lore. And I think that this is one of the such a great thing that we can train our kids to think of the disasters that happen in life as not as some sad thing, you're a victim and things didn't go well and blah, blah, blah. It's lore. It's lore. So there was an episode in 2023 where we first talked about this, and it's one of my most discussed episodes. I mean, to this day, a couple of times a month, somebody will bring up this episode and say that they really liked it. So if you want to hear the original one, that was episode 164 back from summer of 2023. It was called Make Memories. But yeah, I think that quote, that Chesterton quote, we should, if you're having a tough time right now, you should print that out and put it somewhere where you'll see it every day. Put it on your vision board. An inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered. Now, and so then I guess the flip side of that would be an Wait, my brain's not working. I'm on some drugs right now. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's see. An adventure is essentially. Yeah. Oh, this is okay. Great. Yeah, it clicked for me. Don't worry, guys. It's I always land the plane, even when I am, a disaster and on some heavy prescription drugs. Recommended dose. That's for wussies. Yeah. I like that. You can't have a real adventure without inconvenience. Right? Think about that. Because the thing about any great lore, the thing about any great adventure, any great tale of daring, is that things went wrong. There were outcomes that the character didn't want to happen. And I've really got to stop using Lord of the Rings for this, because I read the first book when I was like 15, and I haven't been that into it since then. I like it. I respect it. I forget the plot. And so I'm constantly referencing the Lord of the Rings trilogy as kind of the ultimate example of lore and a great journey, but I really don't know that much about the plot. But here we go anyway, because it is a great example of lore. I mean, imagine if, like, whatever the hobbits had to do with the ring, they had to take it somewhere. And imagine if they had planned that, because I think it wasn't. Do you know anything about the Lord of the Rings? Why do I keep using this as an example? It helped me in the YouTube comments. So, I mean, I could have even had AI give me a plot summary of the Lord of the Rings before we started this. But basically, the Hobbit guy, I don't think this was on his plan. I don't think he was so I just have some time blocked out on my calendar. I'm taking a sabbatical from my work in the Shire. I have this planned. It's on, so my sabbatical starts on this day, and I'm just going to take a ring over to this eye. The eye needs the ring. And then I'll be back at this time. No, it wasn't planned. It was out of the blue. It totally messed up his plans. And then a whole bunch of stuff happened along the way. And I don't remember any, but I remember that was a long book. I mean, that was like a doorstep of a book. Other books that I read that I don't remember the plot that well, Dune, and I couldn't track with the movie because that's like a neurodivergent thing, that a lot of these epic movies I don't understand the plot, which is it's kind of funny. So Dune, they get to this, they get to the desert planet, and it's, there's no water. And then there are these worm things that are constantly and huge. They're huge. They're these massive worms, and they come up from the sand and they eat people. And it's that wasn't in their plan. Now imagine if they'd gone to a nice planet, the whole planet is like Hawaii. That's the whole planet, and everybody really gets along. Is there a movie there? I mean, do we have Dune, the book? Do we have Dune, the movie? If they get to the planet and it's like Hawaii? No, there's no story there. It's not interesting without inconvenience. The massive worms that come up from the sand, and they can eat 10 people in one bite. Oof. That is an inconvenience. That is very inconvenient. You're just minding your own business, dying of thirst in this desert, trying to get the spice. I forget why, but you need it. And then you get eaten in just one gulp by a freaking worm. And I also remember they couldn't walk normally because that's how it would attract the worms. So they had to walk in arrhythmic patterns. So you wouldn't do this foot, this foot, this foot, this foot. It was this foot, this foot, this foot, this foot. I thought that was a very interesting aspect of Dune. I remember, I don't know why I didn't realize I was neurodivergent sooner. I would walk around high school like that when I was reading Dune to just see if I could walk arrhythmically. I was also goth. So I'd be all gothed out and walking arrhythmically through the halls of my school, not concerned about what anybody thought of me. So that's, we probably could have gotten a diagnosis a little sooner. But that's inconvenient to have to do that. But that's what makes Dune a great book. And listen, let me tell you, you don't want to get eaten in one bite by a worm, but you don't want your life to be this boring non-story. I would even say a fairy tale, but even in fairy tales, there are inconveniences. You know, Snow White, she gets poisoned by an apple, and Cinderella has her stepsisters or her ops, and they're constantly messing with her, you know? I mean, it's like, even in fairy tales, things go wrong. And so it's like, if you have a life where everything goes according to plan, and maybe you only have minor inconveniences, just a little, you know, there's traffic that's unexpected, that is so boring, and it's not a story. If someone were to make a movie about your life and everything has gone really well and like totally according to your plan, there's no, I mean, they wouldn't make a movie about your life. I've said before, I really liked the book, A Million Miles in a Thousand Years. I'm surprised that book wasn't more popular, because Donald Miller, these guys wanted to make a movie about his life because he'd had kind of a memoir thing that came out. And this is such a funny moment. It's really one of the most charming things I've ever read in a memoir, that the producer, so they fly out to meet with him, and they're like, all right, well, yeah, let's make a movie about your life. But he had money from his first book, doing well. He had a lot of good friends. You know, he was crushing it in his writing career, and you know, just had a supportive family and nice place to live, enjoyed the city he lived in. And one of the producers was like, I don't think there's a story here. Like, I don't think, essentially the producer said, there's nothing worth telling about this life that you're living. There's nothing memorable about it. This is not worth making a movie out of. But everything was going really, really well. So that's how we have to think of it when inconvenient things happen. Now, let me go ahead and do the show intro before I address the fact that it's possible that my YouTube viewers, both of them, might have questions about. I'm wearing an eye patch and I'm covering my face. So, and this is not a costume. It's not Halloween related. This is actually a necessary thing that I have to do. You can only see my nose and one eye.
And your hair.
Oh, true. And my hands.
Oh, and your hands.
JF on YouTube.com. Now, did I join ISIS? Is there something else going on? Let me just set up the show real quick. Welcome to the Jen Fulwiler Show, where there's always something new around here. Listen, God put me on the max lore plan, and if you think that I'm making choices that constantly bring this into my existence, I mean, you're not entirely wrong. But listen, like last year, I saw right before my one of my shows, I saw an F4 tornado out my window. Like, what are the odds that I would have been in that city at the right time? And that city actually does not tend to get a lot of tornadoes. I'm in that city in the right time, and I'm in the right part of the hotel that I open my window, and I'm like, that's a big tornado, and it like made national news. So I didn't plan that, you know, I didn't cause that tornado to happen. So I'm telling you, God just has me on the max lore plan. And I am Jen Fulwiler. I'm a mom of 6, best-selling author, stand-up comic, now pirate, evidently. Let's add that to the list. This is the Jen Fulwiler Show, coming to you from Austin, Texas. New episodes every Wednesday. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That's being a hot girl boss, or hot boy boss, or hot pirate who knows that love and family and community are the foundations of all true success. Caitlin White is our lovely producer. We get to the main topic in the second half of the show. So the way the show goes, I set it up at the very beginning, and then I intro the show. I do some intro topics, and then we hit the main topic in the second half of the show. And sometimes, quote unquote, second half is like last 10% there. All right. So listen, I'm wearing an eye patch and covering my face. If you would like to see this, JF on YouTube.com, or probably the easiest way to find it, if you search on YouTube Fulwiler 238, because that's why I do episode numbers, to make them easy to find. This is episode 238. So if you search Fulwiler 238, it'll either bring up this episode and you can see what I look like, or it will bring up, some hater like 238 reasons why I hate Jen Fulwiler. So we'll see what comes up for that. So something has happened. In case you didn't guess. And don't worry, guys, it only impacts my face. I'm a woman. You know that I care about my appearance a lot. Remember when I used to be hot? Those were the days, the halcyon days a week ago. I remember those were good. Those were good times. That's evidently over now. Something has happened. And I don't want to talk about it publicly yet. I can't give my haters that much fuel just yet. But everything is on the Patreon as usual. This is my choice. I might go into it publicly eventually, but I just don't want to go into it. Like what led up to this. But I will say it's very significant, and we don't know if it is permanent or not. And so that is, let me just tell you, when I talk to you today about rolling with punches, about having the right attitude during misfortune and things that don't go your way, facial disfigurement for a stand-up comic who also happens to be a very vain woman who has some deep psychological issues related to her appearance that she has discussed in other episodes. That's a punch that someone could have a real hard time rolling with, especially when nobody knows. It could go away in a week. We're not on track for that, but theoretically it could. 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months, a year, or never. That's what I've been told. So that's good. It's good to have. That's good. That's very helpful to know. It's very, thank you. I'm seeing no improvement. But it's all on the Patreon, including a face reveal. So patreon.com/thisisjen. It is not expensive to join my Patreon, guys. And at any level, you get access to this. This is a way that I stay psychologically sane, because it is private. The stuff that I'm talking about, revealing what my face looks like. And that is just a way that I can stay sane. Patreon.com/thisisjen. And by the way, someone was asking, a bunch of people have joined and they're like, I don't know what this Patreon thing is, but I had to see like what on earth is going on with you. And then they're like, wow, that's bad. Patreon is essentially, for you guys who are not familiar with it, it's kind of a genius concept. It's essentially like if you had a website that is just for your super fans, so it's like password protected. And just like a website, you can put anything on it. You could write something, you could do a video, you could do a picture, you could send out updates, whatever. That's all Patreon is. They just kind of handle the, like, how people join, there's a small payment to join, whatever, and then what level you want to join at, or blah, blah, blah. Patreon just handles all that. That is essentially what Patreon is a processing system so that people can get access to your, secret website, essentially. And it's super easy. I mean, it's, again, I'm a member of a bunch of other people's Patreons. The system makes it very, very easy to join, to unjoin, whatever. But another nice thing for me is that whatever I put on Patreon stays off of Google. And then the other thing is, if someone were to use my content, like, take the video where I revealed everything that's going on, if someone were to take that and, let's say, go put it on YouTube, Patreon also has some interesting systems in place. I'm not sure, I need to check on this, but I think there is a way you could see whose account did it, which would be so fun. It would almost be worth them doing it to catch them doing it. So that's what Patreon is, for those of you guys who are wondering. And that is why I just don't want to go into this publicly, because everyone and their dog can, debate it and take screenshots and whatever. And I want to keep it on Patreon. So you can join instant access as soon as you join. You can start watching that live. And by the way, if you join, you have got to make sure you see at the very end, there was something involving a fireworks effect that was, do not miss it. I think, what was that? Probably like the last 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. Do not miss it. And if you watched and you didn't make it to the end, go back and watch that replay. If you're looking for it, like if you're hearing this years later when you're like, Jen's face is so perfect now. Wow, what a full recovery. And she's so rich. Like, you know, when Jen hosted SNL, it was so good and she looks so hot. And I just want to catch up on her lore. So if this is you, like you're hearing this next year when all that is happening for me, you're like, you know, how is she like richest comedian in the world? Like, oh my gosh. That what you're looking for is it's replay of live event from 1/17/25, from January 17th, 2025. It says replay of live event 1/17/25. That's what you're looking for. So you will find that at patreon.com/thisisjen, Jen with one N, and you get access to all the archives and like whatever, in instant access to it unlocks as soon as you join. It unlocks everything. You guys have been leaving me the best comments on Patreon since I did the live event where I revealed everything that's going on, all the details, and let you see my face. I still can't believe I'm in this situation. It feels like a nightmare. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to highlight some of the lovely things you guys have been saying, but you guys know I have that service that an AI voice reads, that where I can get an AI voice to read voiceovers. So I had your wonderful Patreon comments read by AI voices. And the accents that I have to choose from are American, Indian, Australian, and British. So some of you guys who were leaving nice comments, you will now hear your own voice spoken in a different gender, in a different accent, because I just wanted to bring some diversity to the Patreon. And so now you're an Indian man now. I like it. Okay, so Caitlin, play the first. This is what one nice person had to say after the Patreon live.
I think it was the giant word personality in the middle of your vision board that causes this.
Oh.
We are here to support you either way, but praying it heals quickly for you.
So that was actually another thing we did on the January 17th, 2025 Patreon live. I got out my vision board and I was like, what caused this? Like, because obviously I must have brought this into my existence with my vision board. And what's funny is Caitlin found it. Like I was like, oh, that is, my vision board caused this. So that was one comment. All right, second comment, Caitlin.
Have you considered that your hotness was distracting from your comedy? But seriously, praying it's temporary and heals ASAP.
I think that was a woman who left that comment, but I like a big man's voice reading that. But I like that take. Yes, I was being good looking. It was a long, sad time in my life, and I for one am glad it's done. I'm sick of it. I want to be hideous. Listen, this helps me understand my haters a little better, to just be to be an ugly person inside and out. It's helping me journey with them, because I was kind of an ugly person on the inside, and now match. I have the face to match. Next comment.
Jen, your ALWay is beautiful, hilarious, and delivering the hottest fire content. I hate that this happened to you. But please know we support you and will be praying and rooting for you, Elwayers. I have already re-listened to this live because your content is just so darn funny and also heartwarming. It's like hanging out with my best friends, where you pour your hearts out and laugh till you cry.
That was such a good comment. And by the way, she was using all caps. So that's why the AI voice was like, so funny, because she used all caps for so funny. And I have to say that live event was magical. It was healing for me, honestly. It was healing for me to I don't know, just get the encouragement from you guys. And I'm continuing to read those comments on Patreon. So if you want to leave a comment on the live event from January 17th on Patreon, I am continuing to read those, and they mean a lot to me. And maybe your comment will get read in an AI voice. Here is the final one.
I think this is iconic. You're iconic. This is lore. Also, this is going to get you super ratings. It better. Praying.
I think AI is on as many drugs as I'm on. That one didn't. What is wrong with that? Listen to that. That AI. It's weird to hear AI sounding looped out. Play that again.
I think this is iconic. You're iconic. This is law. Also, this is going to get you super ratings. It better. Praying.
AI voices are hit or miss. That was a drunk Australian. Well, that's redundant, but everyone's going down with me, guys. I'm sorry. I'm insulting other countries. Like, I don't care anymore. Okay, I can't see that well because I have an eye patch on. What does this say? What? Oh, yeah. Okay, I see it. I see it. Okay, got it. Now, I do have an announcement, and I announced this on the Patreon. So this is what's the last thing you would want to happen if you're filming a comedy special and have already paid the film crew? A facial deformity. Yes, that's it's not what you want to happen. But I have decided it is going forward. I am filming a comedy special in Denver. Now, the reason, you guys might have heard the previous episode, we had to scrap the episode that was recorded last week, that was supposed to be out last week. We had to scrap that. The reason is I was talking all about the Denver comedy special, and it was on a certain date. And it's too soon. I want to, if this is going to heal, I need to give myself the max chance for it to heal. So we have changed the date, but it is on, and now the date is final. Tickets are moving. I do think this will sell out because last time I was in Denver, it sold out, and this is a filming. So the date is April 9th in Denver. I am filming this special, rain or shine, hideous or hot. We're doing it. I do, and I might film it like this, like what I look like right now. I might do an eye patch, and you might not be able to see my face at all. And it'll be a new trend in comedy, a faceless comedy special. I'll wear a burqa. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what I'll do, but it is going forward. And let me tell you, if I can just sell out this show, I will be so happy. I will be. If I sell out the show and this situation is better, I will be more high on life than I'm high on prescription drugs right now. I will be soaring with the Eagles. Like I will be so thrilled. And honestly, even if it just sells out or comes close, because it's a big venue, it's kind of hard to sell that one out. Even if we come close, I will be very, very, very happy about that. So, and I do think it will probably sell out. So if you want to join me, it doesn't matter what I look like. I'm not canceling this. It is going forward April 9th in Denver. And I would actually get your tickets soon to this one. The link is in the show notes. I think, I'll go ahead and put it on my website. So jfcomedytour.com. I will have the Denver link up. It is at Comedy Works South, Denver, April 9th. We are filming. We're doing this. I don't know what I will look like, but it's happening. I am also, if you're in the New York City region, I am planning to film May 10th. Is that right? Is that day before Mother's Day? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's Saturday. And that's a Saturday. I really fought to get a Saturday for that one because it's so hard to get into the city on weekdays. So I did that for you guys. I think I am filming there too, but I've been a little busy. So I don't have that locked down, but I am 99% sure that I will also be filming May 10th, New York City. And listen, guys, I have a lot going on. I don't know whether that link will be on the website yet. Maybe jfcomedytour.com. Let's see. Let's roll the dice and see. I actually don't know if I have that ticket link yet. So New York City, May 10th. There you go. That probably filming, but definitely, like, I've already written a big check for Denver, April 9th. Let's do it. So, and that causes me a fair amount of anxiety. And it's also, well, this is getting into the main topic, but I just have to say, the episode that we had to scrap because it was in the before times. I was talking about how excited I was to go against industry wisdom and do this thing where I'm filming 2 comedy specials in the spring. And I know to you guys, it's like, who cares? Like, that doesn't sound like that big of a deal. It's a very big deal in my industry because everyone thinks that I'm tanking my career. They're like, it takes a long time to write really good comedy and you're just going to burn that because no one's going to pay attention to these specials. And I'm like, well, no one pays attention to me anyway, so I have nothing to lose. But I've really had a lot of people tell me, like, I really think you're tanking your career by doing this, and I'm doing it anyway. And I was all excited about that. And then this happens. So patreon.com/this is Jen. Let's go to, okay, before I go to, I have been spending 2 hours at a time sealed in a tube. I want to talk to you about that before we get to the main topic, but let me tell you, Caitlin, are we at about 30 something minutes in? Mm-hmm. Okay. I can't see because I have an eye patch on. It's funny how your one eye that you're looking at with an eye patch is like, not like you can't see as well out of that one. By the way, Caitlin pointed out that this time last year when I had a blood clot, I thought I had scurvy. And that was such a great observation. It's like I'm finally living my dream of being a pirate with scurvy. I should have just leaned into that, been like, it was scurvy. All of the doctors were wrong with their blood clot, No, it was scurvy. And now I'm embracing the full pirate lifestyle. The Women's March was recently... I forget which day, but that will be kicking back up too because the March for Life is, let's see, after this episode airs, it's like right around that time. And so there will be more, Women's March kind of stuff. And I just have to comment on this that because I see this, being in comedy, all of my comedy friends are, they're into the Women's March and like we're feminists and we're, just hate the March for Life and all of that. And they were out doing, when we had the Austin's Women's March, they were out doing that. And a bunch of people were wearing I call them, P hats, like it's like the letter P, cause this is a clean podcast, but they stand for, it's a word that can mean cat or it can mean a certain part of the female anatomy. Again, people listen to this with their kids around, so that's why I keep the podcast clean. So we'll call them pea hats. But they're also designed to look kind of like a uterus. And so I've seen, I have to be subjected to, as if my cross is not heavy enough right now. I have to be subjected to seeing a bunch of my friends wearing these ridiculous hats. And just, it's painful to watch someone that you do like and care about making a different point than they think they're making. I just want to say, there is nothing that better proves that the modern secular worldview about what the human body is for and sexuality and just kids and pregnancy and all that has put women at war with their bodies. There's no better example of that than the Pea Hat Women's March phenomenon, because think about Halloween. Classically done, Halloween is where we dress up as things that scare us. And this is an ancient concept. I mean, this goes back to, you've got records of people doing this in like ancient Babylon. I mean, this is a deep, not for Halloween, but like just to dress up like things that scare them. This is something that is really wired in us as humans. When we are terrified of something, we often do we dress up as it, we clothe ourselves in it as a way of taking control over it. It gives us a sense of control to dress up like the thing that terrifies us. Warlocks, vampires, like skeletons, like death. It gives us a chance to exorcise, like exorcism with an O, exorcise our terror of these subjects. And so it's interesting when you see a generation of women wearing uteri on their heads. It's like you're doing the Halloween thing. You are trying to take control over something that terrifies you. Like the some of the gals I saw, they were wearing like IUD necklaces and earrings. They were wearing like jewelry that was IUDs and birth control, which is so fun. I messaged one of them and I was like, my existence is due to an IUD failure. So, want to be careful with those. Like if anyone should wear an IUD earrings, like it really should be me, I defeated that. But my whole existence is one big like screw you to contraception. Like I've got 6 kids and I'm due to a contraception failure. But so it's just interesting that to see women who are so terrified of this part of their body that they have to dress up like it to work out their fears, and watch for this, and you'll be like, Jen is so right. That hideous creature of a podcast host who used to be hot that I follow, like she is really right. Like it's like not being hot anymore has really helped her like intellectual brain have even newer and fresher galaxy brain insights. Probably the drugs also helped. But no, you guys, you're going to see it everywhere that women who buy into the, secular culture, like abortion is a woman's best friend, like all that kind of thing, they are at war with their bodies. They're terrified of their bodies. And it's for a very, very simple and kind of obvious reason that it's the worldview that comes with a culture that accepts contraception as this kind of infallible and good thing. There's been contraception from time immemorial. I mean, again, going back to ancient Babylon, like you don't want to know how they did it. It was kind of wild, but people have been finding ways, to use contraception like for thousands of years. But the difference is that when in the 1960s, when it became, accepted, pushed by governments, even pushed by religions, like for example, every single Christian denomination was opposed to contraception until the 1930s. So that it used to be, if you were any kind of Christian, it was like, that's not a great idea. And of course, people did it anyway. I mean, that's human life. But it was not, like, hey, this is a great thing to do from your religion. And Caitlin, which pope was it who spoke on contraception? Just kidding.
Great question.
Yeah, I wrote an afterword to his encyclical, so I should know that. And it's funny when you look up my name on Amazon, one of the things that comes up under it is Humana Vitae. This was the papal encyclical about why contraception is going to jack up society and like ruin women's lives. And I wrote an afterword to a new edition of it, just hating on contraception, which is one of my favorite things to do. So it's so funny that it says, but if you search for my name, it looks like I wrote Humana Vitae, this seminal papal encyclical. Like, yeah, guys, I put a lot of thought into it. I just wanted to talk some trash about this. And look, I realize that probably 80% of the people listening to this podcast use contraception, and I don't care. I have bigger problems to worry about. I'm literally wearing an eye patch. So if you think that I care what you are doing in your life, like you're obviously not watching the YouTube version of this podcast. It's just like from a philosophical, like I just like to philosophize about this and how it ruins women's lives. So what it was Pope, I keep wanting to say Pope Pius. Caitlin, can you please Google? Yep. And I know Humana Vitae is hard to spell. It's Vitae is that second word. It's Pope. I know people, my Catholic Ghetto listeners are like shouting at their podcast. So he made some predictions about what would happen. Pope Paul, that's right. The 6th.
I don't know.
VI? Is it VI? Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry to make you do Roman numeral math. Yeah, Pope Paul VI. Okay. So he wrote a real banger of a think piece, and basically he was like, look, this isn't going to be good for women, and everyone was like, oh, these Catholics like hating on women again. But as usual, it's like the Catholics are literally the only ones telling women the truth, and it's inconvenient, but it's true. And so what has happened in a culture that says that, contraception is amazing and it's just so good and this is what we should all be doing, is that it puts women in a mindset that is where there is a fundamental truth, and this is something that women do not question in this society. It's like the sky is green. No, I'm on drugs. I'm sorry. The sky the sky is green for me right now. The sky, what color is it? Blue. Patreon.com/this is Jen. The sky is blue, grass is green, and it's totally like a good, normal, healthy, fine, something that everyone does to engage in the act that creates babies. Sex. When you are in no position to have a baby and not ready to have a baby. Like I read an article a while back, and I actually looked for it. I couldn't find it, where it was in something like Cosmo or something like that, where this woman was like 30 things I learned before turning 30. And one of them was, it can be really fun to have a one night stand with a guy who you are afraid might steal your wallet. And everyone was like, yeah, it is like something, you have a crazy night. Like, it's kind of fun. Be safe, use protection, but it's kind of fun. Well, guys, according to Planned Parenthood's own data from the Guttmacher Institute, which is their research arm, a woman taking a contraceptive method with, I think it's a 98% effectiveness rate over a 10-year period, has a 70% chance of experiencing an unexpected pregnancy. 70% chance. Contraception does not really work that well, but that is not part of the public psyche. That is not part of like what anyone thinks about. And so you have women who are like, yeah, it's kind of fun, like dangerous guy, I should have known, with the tattoo of the skull that was on fire, but we had a wild night. Okay, but what if the contraception fails? Do you want to raise a child with a man who you're afraid might steal your wallet? Like, you don't even know his last name? Like, no one in this culture associates sexual activity for young people, like whatever, not married, whatever, with like car seats and diapers. When you see images of like people out at the club, being like having a good time, no one connects that in their mind with car seats and diapers and pediatrician appointments, which is really a problem when you think about it. And by the way, and I'm even talking to you, like, if you are an atheist and you just took some extra birth controls just because I'm annoying you, like you took some extra pills, like I do not care what people actually do, but this is interesting from a philosophical perspective, that no one associates sexual activity with car seats, with spit up, with babies, with, late nights with an infant waking you up. And that is from contraceptive culture. That didn't quite used to be the case quite as much. And again, I did a whole interview series with relatives who were born in, one was born in 1904, one was born in 1914. And that was a little delicate to ask them about this subject, but I kind of danced around it. And people did crazy stuff, of course, back in the day. It's not that everyone was like perfectly moral, or obviously not. But in the back of their minds, there was a little bit more of an awareness of, yeah, I'm not going to sleep with a guy who might steal my wallet because I don't want to raise a child with a guy who might steal my wallet. So when we're in this, culture where contraception is seen as this just like incredible thing that everyone has to get in on, and it's so perfect, and it just makes your life so easy, you see how women are put at war with their uteri. That is it wouldn't be uteruses, right? Yeah, it would be uteri.
So.
I never hear people say that, but because usually you're not talking about plural uteruses. You don't need to look it up. We're just saying uteri. I'm going.
I myself am curious.
Okay. Let me know. Yeah, what is the plural? Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious. So, uteri. Where was I? Oh yeah.
Both.
Okay. So, it's not though.
It says uteri or uteruses.
Okay. Well, not if you know Latin, which I don't. So.
I don't either.
Yeah. So, because I actually saw a comedian friend of mine, really lovely. I like her a lot. And I could play this clip. I know where to find it, but I don't want it to seem like I'm calling her out, because like, I get it. I see why she thinks this way. But she was saying that, so she has 2 kids, and she was saying that, and she was talking about how, like, you know, it was ultimately a pro-choice, like pro-abortion point that she was making. And she was like, well, yeah, like, yes, I'm a mom and I have my kids, but like, I chose to let them, you know, exist rather than them invading my body. Like, I'm not, you know, I didn't just let them invade my body. Like, I was active in the decision to have them. And like, yes, I love my kids, but they can't just like come and invade my life. And it went viral and everyone was like, yeah, great point. And I would just like to say, woman to woman, and again, whatever you believe, even like taking morality out of it, taking religion out of it, just like bringing logic into it, I would just like to say, is that a fun way to live? That you're constantly worrying about your body being quote unquote invaded, which is that's putting you as the victim, you know, if you're, because very much like all the pro-choice march, you know, women, they very much see themselves as victims when it comes to unexpected pregnancies, that like there's no way you could see it coming. And the reason is because of contraceptive culture. It's really not their fault. I really don't blame them, because they have this culture that's like, oh, just use contraception and you're fine. And so they're like, okay, cool. And like, I mean, my friends who ended up, frankly, in abortion clinics that they didn't want to be in back in the day, like in college, they very much, they had this, it was like talking to someone who had been struck by lightning. They were so shocked and they were so grief-stricken, and they were like, I was doing everything right. Like, I was playing by the rules. Like, one of them, she'd been on birth control. Her doctor put her on antibiotics and didn't tell her that the antibiotics make birth control not work. He did not mention that to her. And so she was with a guy who was a real sleazebag, and suddenly she's pregnant. She, you know, was in a bad situation. And I just remember how sad and shocked she was. And just how much she genuinely, in her heart of hearts, and rightfully so, felt like kind of a victim. Like, I was playing by the rules. I did everything that the people in health class told me to do. I was responsible. I was sexually active, so I got on the pill. Like, I did everything right, and now I am in this whole mess. And of course, her boyfriend stopped returning her calls. Like, and this is what Pope Paul VI was talking about. Whose problem is it now? Not the mate. Like, he stopped returning her phone calls. He changed his number. I actually think she never heard from him again after she told him. So because men can do that. So it is 100% her problem. And it was just a whole awful mess of a situation that, again, she very much felt like this was a lightning strike situation, because she had been doing everything that her society told her to do. And you see this on a generational level. These women who were like, I just know that I can play by the rules all day long. I can do everything my parents told me to do. I can do everything that health class told me to do. And I can still have my body, quote unquote, invaded by this living being that I didn't want or ask for, and like thought I was preventing. And that's why they end up wearing hats shaped like a uterus, because you're terrified of your body. You see it as a betrayal of your body. And so this is what, give me a microphone, man. I'm on drugs. I will say, like, I need to stay on these drugs. And give me a microphone. The March for Life is coming up. Fly me out there. A couple of my kids are going, actually. I'll speak. No, I should. No, and actually, I don't want to speak at the March for Life, because you guys are kind of on this. No, I'll speak at the March for Abortion. Like, but put me up as a speaker. I'm serious. Like, put me up at the Women's March, and I'll be like, listen. I'll probably start out with some stand-up comedy, like just work out some new bits, just while I have a mic, and just be like, "What do you guys think? Was that was a pretty good one. That's a good story." But then I'll just be like, "Listen, ladies." The causality of what makes of your loss of control, you're putting it in the wrong place. You're putting your loss of control at the moment of conception, when the contraception fails. That's where you're putting your loss of control. But that's wrong. And so you can take off your pea hat, you can take off the uterus hat, and you can stop wearing necklaces and earrings that are shaped like the female anatomy because you're so terrified of it, like how we wear skeletons at Halloween. Because the cause of your victimhood is not at the moment of conception when the contraception fails. And the baby is not the aggressor that's making you the victim. The cause of your victimhood is when you accepted contraceptive culture. That's what made you a victim, because contraceptive culture tells you that it is a totally normal, it's like breathing air. It is a totally normal thing to do, to engage in the act that creates babies when you are in no way ready for a baby. And the people behind this culture who make a lot of money off of contraception and abortion, they don't want to talk about the studies that say a woman, Guttmacher Institute, a woman using it's from John A. Smith was the author of this study. A woman using a birth control method with a 98% effectiveness rate has a 70% chance of experiencing this invasion of her uterus, 70% chance, if she is using this contraceptive method and sexually active over a 10-year period. That's where you lost the control. That's where you became a victim. When you heard those lies. And it's understandable that women believe them, because normally your society doesn't like totally lie to you about stuff. It is human nature to kind of just go with what the mores are, to just kind of go with what the ideas are of your culture, because that's, it's you are designed intrinsically to trust the culture that raises you, that it has some good ideas that have worked for your people historically about how to live life, about what's good, what's bad, who you should marry, what sexual activity should be like. There's a reason that cultures develop things over long periods of time, and so your brain is designed to just kind of go with that. It's historically unprecedented what happened in the 1960s. And again, Pope Paul VI, literally the only person who called it, was... Okay, we have... It's so funny. We're talking about pea hats, and we have a cat meowing outside. So, yeah, Caitlin, you might need to intervene. It's historically unprecedented that society did such a 180 in such a short amount of time. And so women are we're the victims of this societal experiment where it's like, hey, let's throw out everything that society found made sense look, this is what happened in the 1960s with contraception, that they were like, look, just because pretty much all humans across most cultures had roughly the same ideas about sexuality, just in the sense that, like, if you have sex, you might have a baby. Look, just because human cultures have thought that way for only the past 100,000 years, for really as far back as we have records of anything, they've thought that way. Let's change it now. Let's just do a 180 and be like, no. Let's give people some new, fresh ideas, some fresh ideas that are just completely contradictory to what basically every human society has believed since there have been human societies on planet Earth, and that will probably be fine. So that's why I have no animosity towards, like the Women's March people and the pea hats and all that. I just feel bad for them because they're just not making the point they think they're making with the pea hats. And I feel really bad when I see, the stand-up comedy bits of like, I'm not... Like, yeah, I like my kid, but like, I'm not going to have a baby invading my body. Like, that's so crazy that you're so out, that your uterus is a battleground. That's crazy. Guys, like, ladies, we were not supposed to live that way. Your uterus is not supposed to be a battleground in your own mind. And the reason you feel like it is because of your society's stupid ideas. It's been selling you lies for a long time, and it sold your mother's lies, and it sold your grandmother's lies. and read Humana Vitae. I'm telling you, read Pope Paul VI. It was a banger, even if you're not Catholic. I mean, he had some excellent points. Okay, main topic. How many minutes are we in, Caitlin? I can't see because of the eye patch.
55.
Yeah, okay. I'm just like covering my face with an eye patch talking about contraception. This is the most on brand episode. I mean, you know what? This episode is the litmus test. This is the ultimate Jen Fulwiler show episode. We have something disastrous has happened. I'm wearing an eye patch and I'm ranting about something that literally nobody agrees with me on. Like there are probably 4 people listening to this entire podcast. One of my 4 YouTube viewers, who like agree with me on this. So that's good. Welcome to this podcast. So on brand. By the way, there's a new Village Hustle Patreon episode out. No, I did not have a miraculous face healing. I happened to pre-tape that. Sometimes with the Village Hustle, because I love that so much. That's where I tell you guys kind of like how I make it all work and balance and, all of that. Sometimes when I'm inspired, I'll do a couple episodes at once because I want to get down the inspiration. So this was recorded before the terrible thing that happened. It is episode 74. And in that one, I was talking about what to do if like you're pursuing your passion, but you start to worry, I think I might be kind of almost like addicted to this. I might start neglecting my family. Like I want this goal a little too much. So that is what I address in episode 74 of the Village Hustle Patreon that just came out. But really, who cares about that? What you want is the live event that we did January 17th. You'll see the replay. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Okay. Main topic. Caitlin, would you make a note? I want to talk to them about being trapped in a metal tube that is exactly like the Ocean Gate submarine. But we're short on time because there was just too much hot fire before this. So next episode, I'll tell you guys what it's like to be trapped in a metal tube and you're under pressure. So you can't, even in an emergency, you could not get out right away because you'd get the bends because they have to depressurize you. I've been doing that 5 times a week, and I am 10 out of 10 claustrophobic. Oh, actually, you know what? If you want to know about that right now, all of like the pictures and video and everything, that is on that same, the now infamous January 17th Patreon live replay. I went into the whole thing of why I'm doing it, how it relates to this. I have videos from inside the tube, all of that. So you can see that right now, and I will get to it next week on the podcast. Okay, so... Make lore. Again, that quote that I read at the beginning of the episode. An inconvenience is simply an adventure wrongly considered. And so that would be an adventure is an inconvenience rightly considered. I've been thinking about this a lot. What with my life skidding off the rails in new and unforeseen ways, and really, frankly, one of the worst possible ways it could have skidded off the rails with me doing my big plan that I was so excited about to film 2 comedy specials in short succession. This is me, telling the industry that like I'm done with all this and I'm doing it my way now. I cannot believe that something happened to my face, like right as I am heading into this. And probably the hardest part for me, I think I got a little choked up on the Patreon live about this, that we don't know if it's permanent. That would be so funny though if I was like forever like this on the page. I will not show my face in public again if it's permanent. I will tell you that. You'll never see it unless you join the Patreon. So I've really, really, really been thinking about the concept of seeing everything that goes wrong in your life as lore. And even the serious things, even the hard things, trying as much as you can to see it all as lore. Again, when you look at any of the great adventure stories of all time, things didn't go smoothly. Probably one of the most famous scenes in history is the Indiana Jones at the beginning of the movie, when he goes in and he grabs the that little golden thing that he was trying to grab, and he replaces it with the bag of sand that's about the same weight. And he's like, oh, cool, I got out of here. And then, it's like the arrows start shooting out at him, and that huge, massive ball comes rolling down after him. Now, think about if he had just gotten the golden statue that he was looking for, and it just worked. And he was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, glad I got that. And he just headed out and went home. There's no movie there. No one's ever heard of Indiana Jones if it just worked. And same thing. I mean, think about like Luke Skywalker. I mean, imagine him at a party. Like, that's got to be so fun to be Luke Skywalker at a party. Like, I kind of had this like mild flirtation with this woman. Turns out she's my sister. Like, so that's so crazy. And oh my gosh, like Darth Vader, that's my dad, dude. Sorry, spoiler. If you're like, hey, I was
Never seen Star Wars.
Yeah, man, I was gonna watch it this weekend. Spoiler alert. Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. How fun is he at a party? Now imagine someone else who's from the little planet he's from. That's like, yeah, no, I mean, my parents were great, and I never had to destroy a Death Star. My father wasn't, the Dark Lord. Nobody cut off my hand, I mean, how fun is Luke Skywalker at a party? A Batman, like with his parents being murdered. And obviously that's horrible. Like, you lose someone you love. And the thing about making lore, like Batman's a good example, because of course, like that's a horrible, tragic, horrific backstory that shouldn't happen to anyone. But when you have the lore mentality, even for things that are objectively tragic, like, when I think of, like my dad dying suddenly, and I was thinking of this the other day, that I was looking at my wedding ring. Not, this is a cheap Target wedding ring, but my wedding ring is it's from I think I was told it's one of my grandparents on my dad's side. The wedding ring that I have, the rings we exchanged at the ceremony, it belonged to one of their grandparents. So it belonged to my grandparents' grandparents. And I'd like to know, like, who, like which one. I'd love to look them up. And what is this? What I think I heard they got married in like 1890 or something like that. And it just kind of hit me that this was this weekend that I was trying to figure this out, that because my dad died suddenly, and we thought we had many more years with him, and he's an only child and I'm an only child, there's no one to ask. I mean, so not only was my dad dying a tragedy, obviously, but he took all the stories with him that I didn't have a chance to get down. And it was really just a terrible thing. And again, I'd just been texting with him. It was like, it was the craziest thing. So he died suddenly, and I didn't just lose my dad, but I lost all of the stories. Speaking of lore, speaking of stories, I lost it all because there's no one left to ask on that side of the family. So that, I think that's a good example to bring up, because, it's all fun and games when you're just hideously disfigured as a stand-up comedian, maybe permanently. I mean, that's, people have bigger problems, but like, let's talk about it. Someone on the Patreon was talking about getting a cancer diagnosis. I know other people who have recently gotten pretty serious cancer diagnoses. Like, all right, so when things go really, really wrong, I still think that the lore model is your key to sanity, because, all right, like I didn't want that to happen with my dad dying and losing all the family stories. You didn't want that to happen with your, crazy thing, like whatever happened. But to be able to, one, accept what is, I mean, that's a classic, we talk about that in Christianity, there's in Buddhism, I mean, every religion is like, let's start with accepting what is. Let's start with accepting the fact that this has happened and you can't go back in time. So let's start there. Every major religion is like, let's start there. Now, let's look at the new adventure that is beginning. And I really felt that when I left my dad's house the first time I went back after he died. I don't think I've ever told you guys this story. A strange thing happened that I got in the car, and the Rocky montage thing, you know, that training thing, that da 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 da, you know, when Rocky's training, that came up on my playlist. Like, that song just started playing. But what's weird is it wasn't on any of my playlists. I had been playing a playlist, and when that song started, I was like, what? Like, I like this song, but I mean, that's not normally like a playlist song. You know, I'd probably had some filthy rap on there, you know, some rap beef. And so I searched the playlist and it wasn't on there. Okay, this gets even crazier. I have photo evidence of this. The next day, or maybe it was either the same day or the next day. I can actually check the date on my phone because I took a picture of this. I got stuck in traffic behind a car whose license plate said Balboa, like Rocky Balboa. How insane is that? It might have been that same day. If not, it was like the next day. It was within 24 hours. And I was like, okay, so God is clearly trying to tell me something. And the house that I had just walked out of, my dad's house, that was also the house that my grandparents had lived in. And it was because we moved a lot when I was a kid. That was like the only kind of home that I had ever known. And I knew that we would have to sell it. And again, like, my dad had just been alive like a few days ago. It was so surreal. Like, suddenly, no dad, we're losing this house. Oh my gosh. And when that song came on, I think I've always interpreted that as God reminding me, lore is lore, you know, even in the face of tragedy. And it doesn't mean that you're not horrifically sad. I was terribly sad, obviously, in a horrible state of mourning. But every time something bad happens, whether it's silly or whether it is very, very grave, you are starting a new adventure. Maybe it is not the adventure you wanted. The adventure that I am currently on, of my new adventure of not being a good-looking person, not being able to show my face in public, I didn't want this. But it is a new adventure nonetheless. And when you choose to see it that way, and when you choose to add a little bit of fun drama to it, it can really help get you through. Like, in the Catholic world, a lot of people would say, and this is absolutely true, that God brings good out of bad things. Like, the worst thing that ever happened was, God he came down to earth and he made himself human, and he was, really cool to everyone and just kind of helped people. And we tortured him and murdered him. It's the worst thing that ever happened. But then the best thing that ever happened was the resurrection, was the opening of eternal life. So the worse thing that you have been through, the better things that God is going to bring of it. And it doesn't mean it was good. It's not like that was objectively great that we killed God. Like, no, it's not like that was a bad thing. Like, people should not have done that. It was bad. But God brought the greatest good out of the greatest bad. That is like Theology 101, if you're part of my religion, which you really should be. And people can kind of say that as a pat thing, and it can be really annoying. And so I actually find it less annoying to have less of the sort of happy clappy, like, oh, God brings good out of, God will bring good. I mean, it's true. It's absolutely true. But to be like, yes, good will come of this, but also some really good drama will come of this. I mean, it'll be this adventure is going to be interesting. I didn't want to be on this path. This path sucks. I hate it that I'm in this situation. And what I'd like to do is turn back time and have none of this happen. But that's not going to work. And so now I'm like the little elf, the little hobbit with the ring. I'm on a journey that I did not choose, that I didn't want to be on. But there is some drama now. You can't say it's not interesting. You cannot say my life is not interesting. And it reminds me of, have you heard in the case of tragedy, you've probably heard the phrase, look for the helpers. I think Mr. Rogers said that, or somebody, I don't know, maybe Dr. Phil. I confuse them a lot. Look for the helpers, so like if you see some tragedy playing out, look for the helpers. There's a new spin on that I find more helpful. Instead of look for the helpers, look for who you are now able to help because this happened. I find that much more comforting. Look who you are able to help because this happened. So, for example, one of the guys who works at the Ocean Gate sub tube place that I get locked in, I actually had a really meaningful conversation with this guy before I was locked in the claustrophobic hell chamber, where I think I was actually able to say something and give him some information that is going to be really helpful to him and might even set him in like a new direction in being able to do some things that he really wanted to do. I've been doing acupuncture. I learned that sometimes if you have a true acupuncture person do gua sha on your back, you can look like you have the bubonic plague. Speaking of the January 17th Patreon, we actually lifted up my shirt for people to see, and the comments exploded. People were like, my husband just gasped, like, oh, this is insane.
Perfectly modest.
Fairly modest, yes. I'd give us 7 out of 10 for modesty. No promises that I'm going to stay modest because I have a lot of treatments to pay for. So if OnlyFans has to be good, listen, nothing's off the table here, guys. Okay. I could make a joke about the way I look at OnlyFans, but I'm not on that many drugs. I am encountering all of these new people as part of all the treatments I'm going through. And in fact, so I've also been doing lymphatic drainage massage. So this woman who does my lymphatic massage, she was saying that she had some personal things going on, and she's in a very difficult situation with her family. It's one of those kind of capital T trauma, like very draining, heavy, the kind of thing that really, really, really weighs on you. And then she's also had some health issues come up. So she was telling me everything that she's been doing with that. And then I also told her about, you know what I'm going to say, journal speak, Nicole Sachs, all of that. I said, listen, keep doing all this stuff you're doing, but with the amount of stress you're under, I think you might have what I call funds. I think that your nervous system might be completely jacked up, and that doing this this journaling method might actually really help you release some of the stress because of the very toxic and difficult situation that you're in. I think it can help you release some of the stress, and it might help you feel better. And she was like, she wrote it down. She's like, oh, really? Okay. I need to look up that podcast. That sounds really right. When people discover this whole funds, TMS, Nicole Sachs, journal speak, the way it changes their lives is honestly insane. You can hear it on Nicole's podcast. There are people who were like, they had to quit their job and they had hired a caretaker and could not leave their house. And they are now participating in triathlons because of this, because of understanding how you can free your nervous system with this emotional processing. It's like some miracle stuff. And this woman now knows about it because the bad thing happened to me. And instead of just lying in bed and weeping all day, which is what I kind of want to do, I've just been like, all right, so what do I feel inspired to do? What do I feel like God is telling me to do? What is Reddit telling me to do? God, Reddit, just listening to them all. And I've been just living this lore. And when you take your horrible situation and you say, okay, this is an adventure and I'm going to live the lore, even if it's terrible, it's like, oh, I do not want to live this lore, but here we are. Okay, it's lore. It gives you this kind of higher energy attitude. Because saying I'm embracing this adventure and I'm going to live the lore, that's not a lie in bed all day attitude. That's a very empowered attitude. That's like all right, let's do it. The lore is, there's, again, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Batman, Lord of the Rings. None of these stories are about people sitting around and feeling sorry for themselves. That's not a story. There's no story there. And so to say, yeah, I'm going to get up and live this lore, and I might even be miserable. I'm not even saying I'm going to be in a good mood while I'm doing this. Like I might complain the whole time, but I am going to get up and I'm going to live this new horrible story that I'm on. And if nothing else, it will be interesting. Might be horrible. I mean, like in my case, it's all just horrible, but it is interesting. It's not boring. I will say I'm not bored. I haven't been bored since this happened. I have not been bored. And it really can save your sanity, guys. Even if you're dealing with something grave and serious, it can save your sanity to say, I'm getting out of bed and I'm stepping into this new adventure that I neither asked for nor wanted. And it's going to be horrible, and I'm going to complain the entire time. But I am going to make lore. And one day I'm going to be at a party, and I'm going to be the most interesting person there by far. And everyone else can like tell their little boring stories, and then I'll wait for them to finish, and everyone will be like, wow, that's lore. So there you go. I can't wait to see how long I'm doing the eye patch face covering thing on this podcast. I will not show my face in public again if this doesn't resolve. I won't. It'll just be on the Patreon. Patreon.com/thisisjen. We will be back next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.